Hey everybody, it's Cam here for the Nerd Book Review with part 2 of my favorite and now least favorite tropes in fantasy. Once again, tropes are plot devices that people use that are frequently used. A good example is The Chosen One or Lost Civilizations. Those are ones that I think, Lost Civilizations I just absolutely love. Chosen Ones, not quite so much. Okay, right off the bat, let's just throw out my least favorite trope in all of fantasy, and this one's by a long shot. That is my reluctant hero. The person that has the most power or the most ability to save the world, for example, and just doesn't want to do it. Perrin, I'm looking at you. Your I just want to be a simple blacksmith shtick got old after about 20 pages, and Robert Jordan carried it on for a good solid 12 books. Just do not care for the reluctant hero. On the same vein right there, I don't like characters who won't use their powers despite having the ability, and maybe their own family is at risk because they won't use their powers. I recently read a book that was all in all, it was actually a pretty good epic fantasy. I really liked the magical system, but one entire group of people were pacifists, and they let like their own kids and their own families potentially be murdered because they're not willing to fight back. I've always hated the Tuatha in the Wheel of Time for the same reason, right? Their way of the leaf. I don't like it. It goes up there with my reluctant hero, you know, the same kind of thing where like you're not willing to use your own magic or your own fighting ability in order to like save even your family maybe. If you have the ability to save your people, you should do it. And especially in these fantasy settings, right? I just don't, I've never quite understood that as a plot point. And if you, have that in a book now, that's going to get a DNF from me. The reluctant hero, don't like him. And the just reluctant people in general who aren't willing to use their power, good way to get me to stop reading your book. I also don't like the naive character who's just too good and too pure for the situations that they're put in. If you're an adventurer or a hero, then you have done some bad things probably, or you've had to do some fighting, and you shouldn't be so pure and innocent that everything shocks you that's going on around you. Then there's two other like real big ones that I really dislike. The first one is going to be that you don't kill the bad guy when you could kill the bad guy. That bad guy is always going to go back and kill your wife. They're going to kill your kid. They're going to cause some sort of trouble. When you had the ability to kill them, you better kill them. This is one of those too that I feel like a lot of times will happen where a hero or a band of heroes will literally go through and slaughter thousands of their minions with no remorse at all. But when you get to the main head bad guy, maybe he's a noble and so are you. Well, for some reason, you're not going to kill the nobles. I don't know, whatever the reason that you're not going to kill the main bad guy is, I hate it. You kill the bad guy, or else he's going to come back to haunt you. My wife, I had this list up on my computer screen when I went to bed, and she usually goes in. She also has a YouTube channel that she does videos, not for this. It's for something completely different. But she got on to do some editing on that computer, and she put something into my notes since they were up. Here's Katie's note. You also better kill all their families and their disciples. Otherwise, you're just creating future problems. Often that's how the villain created the hero. Why wouldn't they learn from that? Also, I'm going to not drop the F-bomb, but F. Lysander from the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. Kill the bad guy, or else the bad guy is going to cause you problems. It is a really big trope too, I think, especially in older fantasy where the bad guys, especially if like the evil empire is in control and maybe they killed the person's parents for being rebels or whatever, but the kid survives, then later on they're going to come back and be the ones that end up taking out the evil overlord. This is another one maybe that I hate almost as much as I hate the reluctant hero, and that is the what's called an idiot plot point. That is that two characters or maybe more don't communicate between each other, and so there's a misunderstanding. And especially like I hate it if they were in the room together and they're not trying to be devious or deceitful. It's one thing if one of the characters doesn't give all their information because they're trying to cause problems for the other person. But when you have two people that are supposed to be working together and they won't talk to each other about the things, and because they don't tell the information they have, that causes the problem. That's the idiot plot point thing. But another way that it's done often, and I really hate as well, is when two people are clearly in love. There's no reason they shouldn't be together, right? We're not talking like opposite races of like an elf and a human, where maybe that's a problem, or we're not dealing with like a noble who can't, love a commoner. When there's not a reason, but they're clearly in love and they have been since they were kids, and neither one is willing to tell the other they love them. Then I feel like what happens a lot of times in this case is then, say, especially the woman, the man won't tell the woman that he loves her, so she marries another guy, and that other guy's an asshole, and then eventually the person who's loved her all along has to rescue her from that asshole. Really don't like that plot point. I'm in my 40s now. I've been married for a long, long time. I don't need a high school drama where there's a will they be together, won't they be together thing. I actually just read a book recently, The Hills of Heather and Bone by K.E. Andrews, where the couple had been married for 10 years. They were supportive. And there were no toxic traits in their relationship. And I was like, man, I found that incredibly refreshing. I really enjoyed it. I actually posted on Twitter talking about how much I enjoyed that. And I was given a recommendation of a Zach Argyle book that apparently has a married couple as well, where they're very helpful and there's no drama between them. And I'm going to give that one a shot either in February or March, and I'm really excited. This is a new area of fantasy for me that I'm like, man, I'm going to start looking for books where couples have been together a long time. There's no will they get together, won't they get together, or danger that they're not going to tell each other they love each other. That's going to be a new thing for me. Hate it when you have to have, especially save the character. Then, I lied. You know what's funny? I feel like I have stronger dislikes than maybe my favorite tropes. Like, I absolutely love that Lost Civilizations and Magical School. Like those are real loves. But but my hatreds are way stronger. I hate that reluctant hero. I hate the will they or won't they get together thing. I hate magical blocks. This one is burned into my brain from Robert Jordan and his treatment of Nave. I think that a lot of people dislike her as a character because Robert Jordan did her dirty. She is so powerful, right? She's like just below Rand in the most powerful characters in the entire Wheel of Time series. She manages to, spoilers here, she cures stilling, right? She does so many different things. She helps Rand cleanse the taint. She is amazing. We all know that if, the story to continue, she would have been the Amarylline seat and probably been the Amarylline seat for Maple. I hope that you guys have not been hearing my dog, who is right next to me, start snoring very heavily. She is just, sounds like a chainsaw over there snoring. But Nave, it should have been an awesome character, but instead she's braid tugging, angry at all the times. Also hate the angry woman trope. Same thing probably from Nave, that it's usually like a woman that's upset, like that her man keeps doing this thing or whatever the reason. I don't like the angry woman trope either, but I really hate that magical block, and it's all because of that. She's so powerful. She's so amazing. And I feel like once, she gets over that block and isn't so angry and braid tugging, then she's just a great character. But it went on for like from like books 6 to 8, where it really bugged me the entire time it was going on. Should have been like a book or maybe a half a book where she has this magical block and then it's fixed. I don't know. I dislike it because of that. And it's just a plot point that I don't care for. I don't know if it's quite a plot point that it's willing to make me stop reading the same way that a reluctant hero or the pacifists would make me. But it's something that I don't care for in a character, especially if it's done for very long. Like if it's a half a book or something like that, that's fine. But I don't want it to be an entire series plot point. It can be a book plot point. Okay. We've got, so far I've gone with Reluctant Hero, The Chosen One. Oh, I didn't mention The Chosen One. If The Chosen One isn't done like really well, this is going to go into maybe like the prophecy thing as well. I don't necessarily love a prophecy. I don't hate it. Now, if the prophecy like is cloudy, we don't quite know the reason, like the true outcome of a prophecy, then I like that. And if like, maybe in retrospect, then when the things happen, then it makes the prophecy more clear. But if like the prophecy is going to be a major plot point that like is going to force a character to do something, then I don't necessarily love that. Or if it feels like, prophecy is moving the plot point along. The same thing with The Chosen One. If it's done really well, then I like it. But I feel like sometimes, especially in like mediocre fantasy that I don't love as much, that The Chosen One will just, get away with everything, even if they're not a great character, because they're the chosen one. Maybe they're like way overpowered, or learn like super, super fast. And it's because they're the chosen one. I don't always love that. But it's also not one that's going to stop me from reading a good book though, just because it's the chosen one. Then we have the not killing the bad guy when you can. That's a big one. The lack of communication being a plot point. That's called an idiot plot point, I learned. Magical blocks. I don't like an angry, stereotypical woman. I also don't like it when a woman who has like a lot of abilities and is clearly powerful in her own right only serves to be a love interest for the man and, doesn't do things in her own right. That's one thing I will say with Nave is that, Lan does become secondary to her. And even though, she ends up, going and saving him, she still exists once, she gets past that block and she does all of the truly epic great things. But I just don't like it when you have a woman who should be a pure badass and then she ends up like, say she gets trapped and then a man has to save her. That's not my, something that I really love. And then, my last one, this is the one that is, I feel like is done more than it should be. And it is a training montage that feels like it takes like months or years. And like you have a complete novice, like swordsman, for example, when they start. And it seems like in that training montage, suddenly they become like a great swordsman or a great magician. And they're able to like stand up to eventually people who, anybody they fight, even if those people have been like master swordsmen for 20 years. And then you find out that training montage only actually went on for like 2 weeks or like 3 weeks, right? It feels like, or even maybe it could have been like 2 or 3 months, but it feels like they've been training for forever with the way that it's described in the book. But in the end, it's really only been, a couple weeks or maybe even up to a few months. And suddenly this person is a master swordsman, as opposed to like, a magical school where they had to train for years. Or, I like when maybe you start off as like a teenager and you get into a couple of battles or something and you get lucky to win, but that they got lucky. Or, like you fight someone weaker and then you get more powerful and like say in your late 20s or your early 30s, now suddenly it makes sense as to why you would be a master swordsman or, a really good magician. But I just don't like those training montages where it feels like things went on for months or years and you find out it's only been like 3 weeks. I don't know why. I feel like that happens a lot more than I would expect. And it's one of those things, it really does just irritate the hell out of me. Sometimes it's enough to get me drop an entire point in a book when that montage, felt way longer than it should have been. And I don't know why, but it's a pet peeve of mine. It's not one that's going to stop me from reading a book, but it's just going to put me in a bad mood for a long period of time after I got done. It's going to take me a while to get past it. Once again, just like in the last video where I asked for your favorite fantasy tropes, please give me your least favorite fantasy tropes. I love to interact in comments and talk about that, and I'm interested to see what your least favorite fantasy tropes are and how they relate to mine. Hope you guys enjoyed both these videos, and I hope you have a wonderful time reading. Thanks.